A little boy once asked the father, "Daddy, how big is God?" The father gave a thought to this question and sought for a way to answer his son in a scripturally correct manner and an avenue to teach the son some lessons about God. Thankfully, they lived close to an airport, and when the father heard a plane approaching, he took the son outside and said, "Son, look up." The son looked up and said, "How big is that plane?" The son said, "Dad, from what I can see, plane is small." Father said, "You are correct based on your perspective. Son, do you mind driving with me? Get into the car. I want to show you something." The son entered the car and they drove to the airport. When they got to the airport, they were just some few distance away from the plane that just landed. The son could see many people exiting the plane. And while he was looking at this, the father asked him again, "Son, how big is that plane?" The son said, "Daddy, that plane is so big." The father said, "Son, that's the same plane I pointed to you in the sky a moment ago, but now you are saying it's so big." The son said, "Dad, surprisingly, the plane is now so big." Father said, "Son, this may not be the perfect analogy, but this is the best way I can answer your question of how big God is." He says, "Son, the farther you are from God, the smaller He is in your eye. But the closer you are to God, the bigger He is to you." Truth is, to understand the greatness of God, you get close to God. And the more you get close to God, you begin to see that God is greater than anything you can imagine. But there are situations in your life, and there are situations in my life that seem to undermine the presence, the power, and the greatness of God in our lives. There are situations in your life that seems to question the existence of God, or whether God is great enough to be able to mitigate your problem, to be able to solve your problem, to be able to bring succor to you. I don't know what it is for you. It may be that you are going through a tough time, a chronic illness or a terminal illness. It may be that you are passing through financial distress, or you are going through an emotional trauma. It may be that you have experienced series of disappointments. There is no money in your pocket, there is no money in the bank. It may be that you are in lack, you are down, you are frustrated. It may be that you have lost your job. You have lost someone close to you. Your business is crumbling. I don't know the nature. I don't know the size. I don't know the color of your problem. But I am here to ask you, how big is your God? Many years ago, in the time of King Hezekiah, the king of Assyria, Sennacherib, came and besieged Jerusalem. He sent his ambassador to the king of Israel with a letter of threat to him. In short, he told him, "Don't bother yourself, surrender to the king of Assyria. That is the only way you will have peace. But if you are stubborn, saying you have a God, we are going to pounce on you as we have done to every other nations." These nations boasted that they had a God, but eventually we demystified them. Surrendered. When Hezekiah received this letter of threat, he was in great distress. The entire nation was in great distress. Hezekiah did something. He took the letter to the house of God, to the temple of God, and laid the letter on the altar and wept before God in prayer. Do you know what? The king of Assyria messed with the wrong people. He messed with the people of God. He messed with a king who knew his God. Hezekiah and his men had no reason to fight Sennacherib and his entire army. God did the fighting. God fought for Israel, and the king of Assyria and his army were defeated. So I ask you, how big is your God? Did Daniel not say that those who know their God with words? But yes, he said it. And because Hezekiah trusted in God, God fought for him. The king of Assyria messed with the wrong people. So I ask you, how big is your God? As you try to answer this question, I want to beg you not to make any of these three mistakes. The first mistake is, don't estimate the size of your God based on your size or the size of your mind, because God is bigger. He declared in his word, "My ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways your ways, and my thoughts your thoughts." Don't estimate the size of God based on your size or the size of your mind, because God is way bigger. The second mistake you should not make, don't estimate the size of your God based on others' perception about your God. The king of Assyria, Sennacherib, estimated God based on his experiences with other nations. He had a perception of God that is not different from the gods of other nations he has defeated. But it was so wrong, and he paid dearly for it. So for some persons who do not know your God, they may think there is no way out of it. It is not whether they believe in God, it is whether you believe in God. It is not whether they think that God is great to pull you out. It is whether you believe that God is great to save you. Don't estimate the size of God based on what other people think about God. Who is God to you? Here's the last mistake you should not make. Don't estimate the size of your God based on the size of your problem or based on the size of your enemy. When David stood before Goliath, physically speaking, David did not stand a chance. But David did not approach Goliath because he trusted in his logic, in his reasoning. No, because he trusted in his God. Goliath was big. Goliath was a giant. Goliath had a lot of victories and well fortified. And what David sees is an uncircumcised, blasphemous man that will fall down in a short while. Because David did not estimate the size of his God based on the size of his enemy. He knew that God is bigger. So I tell you, your problem may be big. People might have even given up. Perhaps you are even tempted to give up because of the size of your problem. I ask you, do you think your problem is bigger than God? For I believe your God is bigger. I believe God is bigger. So don't estimate the size of God based on the size of your problem. If you do any of these, you can never be farther from the truth. Because in reality, God is so big that when God was speaking in the book of Isaiah, he spoke with some rhetorical questions to pique our imagination, to think and see that he is really greater than anything we can ever think or imagine. Look at what God said in the book of Isaiah, the 40 verse 12. Who else has held the oceans in his hand? Who has measured the heavens with his fingers? Who else knows the weight of the earth? Or has weighed the mountains and is on a scale? Look at the question he asked. He's saying that the entire oceans, he carries everything in his hands. God measures the heavens with his finger. That is your God. That is my God. The question is, do you know him? May I suggest to you today, if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling that your problems are so great, if you are feeling like giving up, thinking that there is no way, I want to suggest to you that God is bigger. You may not see it now, but when you get close to him, the closer you get to him, the easier it is for you to realize that your problems do not stand a chance. That is why the psalmist said, 1,000 will fall on my side and 10,000 on my right hand, but it will not come near me. That is one man against 1,000. That is one man against 10,000. And he's able to defeat these numbers of enemies because of his God. So I want to encourage you. Don't allow the size of your problem confuse you. Don't allow the perception of others about God confuse you. Don't allow the size of your mind to confuse you. God is greater. As you meditate on these words, I don't want you to forget the question, how big is your God? You can type in the comment section what you think about your God. I trust God has ministered to you. I don't know what you are going through. This is God reminding you again that what you are going through is a piece of cake. Open your heart, open your life, accept him, invite him. He will see you through. This is another edition of From His Heart to Yours, and it's always a pleasure having you here. Until I see you again, I will appeal as I always do. Would you like to be part of God's ambassador? To take this message to others who have not heard it. Kindly share on your social media handles and encourage someone to watch, because you may just be that person that God will use to strengthen someone who is about falling. That is very important. I trust you will do this. Until I see you again, I pray that the good Lord will bless you, will keep you, will prosper you, and draw you closer to himself, help you through your difficulties, and perfect all concerning you. In Jesus' name, amen.